think about what's your own health worth to you, right? Also, what are all the things you're not buying anymore?
Hello, and welcome to the Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins podcast. We share people who've already healed themselves, along with health and wellness tips from myself. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins. Today, my guest is Jonathan Johannessen, who is a 24-year-old Norwegian. Jonathan struggled with a long list of health issues, including irritable bowel syndrome, anxiety, weight issues, addictions, hallucinations, sleep paralysis, Raynaud's disease, and depression. In 2023, Jonathan finally hit rock bottom. After a major attack of irritable bowel syndrome, he started experimenting with food and eventually found his way to the carnivore lifestyle without even knowing it existed. This way of eating has completely transformed his physical and mental health, and now he's passionate about spreading the message to others, especially young people who are silently struggling like he was. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's great being here with you.
I love having you here and to have this conversation because you've healed so many health problems through just literally changing what you eat.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey, and I'm really grateful for every opportunity to come tell my story because I think it's probably the most important part of all of this, really. I mean, you can educate people all the information, right? The science and all the physiology and all that stuff. But I think how we actually connect with people with all this stuff is telling our story, just sharing our experience, our healing, and all that. That's how humans have always passed off knowledge, right? And it's just one way. For me, this entire lifestyle change is also about just in general going back to doing things that are closer to what's natural for us. And I think storytelling is also such a fundamental part of like living as naturally as possible as a human being, right? So yeah, thank you so much for letting me come on here and tell my story.
Absolutely, and my pleasure. And thank you for sharing that. Could you share with us what your life was like before you found the carnivore way of eating? What was going on? You've given me some of your health struggles, but what did your life look like?
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll have to go back a bit, right? I've pretty much always, my entire life, as long as I can remember, struggled with a lot of health issues. I remember or my mom's told me when I was just a baby still wearing diapers, right? I was already having such severe gut issues that they either had to like help me try to press stuff out the other end by like pressing my legs up and all that. I was really constipated, or it was like spray painting the walls behind me with, or they were spray painted brown, right? So it's, yeah, it was already a rough start all the way from the beginning for me. And then, when I got to school and all that, I was always kind of the shy kid in class. I struggled with my confidence, didn't really believe in myself. I had issues with kind of communicating with people as well. I always felt a bit different, uh, felt very alone, all that stuff. And I also had a lot of anger in me as a child, uh, like just bursting out in like anger at school and stuff. It came out especially when attention was directed at me. I think it was sort of an anxiety thing where I couldn't handle this pressure or something like that. It was so bad sometimes that I even got mad and bit teachers when they came over and like they really just tried to help me probably, but I got angry and didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle these things. And then, yeah, getting older, I also started gaining a lot of fat. I became like the fat kid in class as well, which definitely didn't help with my confidence, right? Everything just got worse and worse and worse. And now looking back, it's also, I mean, it's a sign of me being metabolically sick, right? So of course everything else is going to be off base, right? Everything's going to be off balance from that. Really, it's all connected. And then, yeah, going into like my teens and all that, my mental issues got even worse. My weight, it just went up and up. Of course, there's ups and downs in life, right? Everyone has that, but in a general sense, like everything was on a downward trajectory. It never really got better. Yeah, so my confidence just got worse and worse. I didn't really have any real friends or anything like that. Just kept to myself. I got into the gaming stuff, so I just stayed in my room all by myself and did these things.
You mentioned that in 2023 was your lowest point. What was going through your mind before you thought actually something's got to change? What prompted you to think that?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, 2023, that was like my rock bottom like phase, I guess, or moment. And in like spring or something like that year, I decided I wanted to make a change and lose some weight and all that. And really, at that point, it was in my head, it was all about just, getting the six pack and thinking that would fix all my issues. That's really all it was about at that point. I didn't have the focus on anything else. That was it. And what I ended up falling into at that point was this whole calorie counting thing. So I started restricting myself, right? I started eating. Actually, I was staying away from processed foods. And my family had already switched away from the seed oils, margarine, and all that. So we were using the real fats and stuff, like butter and coconut oil, like better fats. And so I was basically just following like the balanced diet, the guideline stuff, which is low fat, lean protein, a lot of fruits, vegetables, all that, Greek yogurt, lean chicken, all of that stuff. And it was more about like volume eating, right? Filling my stomach and sticking with this arbitrary number of this is the amount of calories you can eat. And that's how you're going to get your six pack. And then I was training a lot as well. So in my mind, I was doing everything right. I was doing all the right things. And in the short term, I'll admit, I did actually start feeling a lot better. I did. I started actually mentally feeling a lot better. I think my gut also started feeling better in the short term. I started actually getting in really good shape as well. But again, the focus is completely wrong. I'm not focusing on real nutrition and getting the nutrients I need, So after a few months, it actually starts turning for the worse, where my previous issues, like with my being depressed and anxious, the gut issues, all of that. I wrote a list for you. I can read that with like all the issues I had, or the ones I can remember at least. It's quite the list. So what I wrote was depression, anxiety, brain fog, energy crashes, disordered eating, body dysmorphia. I had heart palpitations, joint pain, Raynaud's, where you have like completely white fingers. In Norwegian, we call it corpse fingers. I don't know if that's a term in English, but pollen allergy, like seasonal allergies, it's completely gone now for me, the way I eat now. No symptoms. Frequent urination, I had to go every 10 minutes and woke up in the middle of the night multiple times having to pee. I had hallucinations both at night and during the day. I had like this sort of alternate reality I created in my own head. You know, I think it was a way for me to cope with reality. I couldn't handle the real world with how like wrecked my mental health was. So I started creating a world, like just this magical world I wanted to live in instead, right? And yeah, I had sleep issues, you know, taking 3 hours of trying to get to sleep before I actually fell asleep. Sleep paralysis, for those who don't know what that is, it's basically you wake up at night or something like that, and then you're completely locked to your bed. You can't move. You're wide awake. And then in my situation as well, I saw like dark figures over me, like coming over the bed and feeling like they were after me, right? And then, yeah, acne, dry skin. I suffered from addictions like to alcohol, nicotine, acid reflux. I had a lot of anger, misanthropy. I was very nihilistic, and I had a lot of self-hate as well. But yeah, that's the list I came up with. There's probably even more things, but that's quite the list already. But yeah, so after a few months of doing this, after I had actually been feeling better and more confident, everything started turning for the worse. You know, I started going into this deep state of like real mental struggle where I was severely depressed to the point where I think if I didn't end up landing on eating the way I am right now, I honestly don't think I would still be here. I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you today, because I was for months on end, or actually for years before that as well. It's just that it got even worse in this period. I was going around just hoping every single night when I went to sleep, I was hoping I just wouldn't wake up the next day. I was making plans of how I would get out of here, you know? And that's unfortunately the reality of my situation at the time. And yeah, I had these hallucinations, started to create this alternate reality for myself. Symptoms, I mean, most of these, or IBS is really the only thing, or Raynaud's as well, are the only things I ever had like diagnosed for anything. I've never really went to the doctor with my issues because I just kept it to myself, didn't talk to anyone about it. I was almost so self-destructive that I wanted to ruin myself. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but that's just how I was. My mental health was completely just out of whack, right? So other than that, the other problems I didn't have diagnosed, but some of my issues, when I've gone to read up about what it's related to, a lot of my symptoms really do correlate with what they call schizophrenia. Not that I'm going to go diagnose myself, but I did have a lot of those issues related to that condition. But yeah, of course, since I am sitting here with you today and talking about this, and I'm glad to talk about this, all of these issues are now gone for me. And it was really towards the end of the summer that year that my turning point came. I hit my absolute rock bottom moment where, you know, I was just so desperate that I just needed to make a change. And it was one day when I just got the absolute worst IBS attack of my entire life. It felt like some wild animal was just running around inside my stomach and just scratching me up, right? And I was getting more and more bloated. It was really, really painful. I couldn't think. I don't think I slept for like 2, 3 days, something like that. I was lying around just trying to find a position in my bed, really. I just stayed in my room. I could barely even get myself to go to the toilet, right? And then when I went there, I couldn't get anything out either. I even tried to like force myself to throw stuff up. It didn't really help. Um, but yeah, I just lied there, like trying to find a position where the pain was kind of relieved, and then it worked for 3 seconds, and then I had to find a new way, and then pressing on, but it didn't really work. But this was the moment where I just realized to myself that I can't keep living the way I am right now, and I seriously need to make a change. Because I think even though I always had those issues, like mentally and physically, I think I always still had this thought in the back of my head that I wanted to want to live, right? Didn't, it just, I just didn't have the feeling that I wanted to live, right? Even though I wanted to know what that's like, but when you're in a state of depression, it's not like you can just try to think a little brighter. It's not how it works. I know it's difficult for people who haven't been in the situation to understand that, but that's just how it is. I can't just think my way to feeling better. But yeah, so from there on, I just started thinking to myself that, you know what, logically, since it's in my gut issues I'm focused on at this point, logically, it has to be something I'm putting in there in the first place, something I'm eating that's causing this. And I just thought maybe I'm allergic to something that I'm not aware of. And I started thinking, did I eat something that day that I had the flare up that I hadn't been eating in a while? And what I came to was an apple. I hadn't had that in such a long time, and I had it that day. So what I did was a few days later, I tested it. I tried eating a piece of apple again, and the issues came back. So from that point on, I started really connecting the dots to myself, being really aware of the symptoms I'm getting from things I'm eating, right? Connecting, I put this in and then this thing happened. I started getting a flare up, feeling gut pain, bloating. My mental health also got worse, right? So I had a period of like 2 months where I just experimented with my diet, eliminating things, trying to reintroduce them, just completely on my own. I actually didn't do anything else in this period of my life. Nothing else. I was pretty much just stuck in my own room. I mean, it was a chore in itself to get myself out of the house to go to the grocery store, right? Just mentally. And yeah, at this point, wait, what was I saying? Yeah, I was just experimenting on my own with this stuff, and I was focused on healing the gut. But what I noticed was also my mental health started getting better, and it seemed like every single time during this period when I cut out a fruit or a vegetable, I started feeling a lot better. It seemed like also when I tried reintroducing them, I started feeling worse. So just by pure chance, I started removing a lot of the vegetables, and I knew enough at this point about nutrition to know that if I'm cutting out all these carbohydrates, I have to up the fats because I can't be using just protein for my energy, right? So I did that at the same time, and I started feeling a lot better. Yeah, and also for those who don't know, like, since my on social media I go by Norse Carnivore, so now I'm eating this carnivore diet, right? But at this point, when I'm doing this whole thing, I've never even heard of this thing. With all my anxiety and all that, I was actually staying away from social media because that made it all worse. It just upped my anxiety, and even seeing other people being happy was something that made me angry, right? I just couldn't handle it. I thought they were fake and like faking this whole personality for the sake of having friends or whatever. But yeah, towards the end of this kind of 2 month period, it's all kind of a blur to me, right? My mental state was, it's almost like a lot of my memory from that point just, I don't know if it's been deleted, if I'm suppressing it, or if it just was never even saved in my brain because I didn't have the nutrients to even have my brain functioning properly. But yeah, towards the end of this 2 month period, I sat there just having, a plate of some ground beef, some eggs, butter, and then an avocado, pretty much. Or that's what I had one day. And then for some reason, when I went to have a piece of this avocado, I don't know what happened, but I just, when I put it into my mouth, I just had this visceral reaction and just went "Bleh," to myself. For some reason, it tasted absolutely horrible. It tasted like poison to me. And since I had decided for myself that I'm gonna listen to all the signals my body's giving me at this point, because there's a reason why it's telling me this. I need to just surrender to everything it's telling me because there's a reason for it, and I just need to follow it. That's all I have to do at this point. So I did, and this avocado, I just took it, chuck it in the bin. I spit out the piece I had, and from that day on, I've pretty much just been on this carnivore diet, eating meat, eggs, butter, fish.
I love that. I really love that. And look at you now from doing that. But can I ask you, Jonathan, was there any skepticism from anybody? How did your family react? Did you speak to any doctors? What actually happened at that time?
Yeah, okay. So the first time I talked with my family about what I was doing. So I was living in the UK at the time, all on my own. Now I'm back in Norway. But yeah, I hadn't really been in contact with my parents or siblings or anything. Really, I was really, really isolated. But just 3 days into eating this way, I suddenly woke up that day with such an insane amount of energy. It was just unlimited. I had a great night of sleep. Finally, I just got straight up from bed. It seemed like all my brain fog, right? It just lifted. My head wasn't wrapped in plastic anymore, right? I just felt this insane clarity. I was happy for once. I was actually happy, and I wasn't anxious or anything. And my first feeling was just, I need to do something. I need to do something. And I just went out the door, and I think I walked for hours on end that day. I think I seriously walked for 8-10 hours just the entire day. That's not even an exaggeration. And while I was on that walk, I just suddenly had the feeling, I want to call my parents. And when I called my mom about this, I started telling her, so I've been experimenting with my diet, and this is what I'm doing right now. And I don't understand what's happening with me, but I feel so happy and amazing. I have so much energy. And keep in mind, I haven't really been talking with my parents either about the issues I was having, but obviously they're my parents. They probably noticed. So my mom said, you know what? I can actually just hear in your voice that there's a drastic difference. I can hear there's something that's happened. And she actually started telling me she goes to Pilates, and a lot of people in that community apparently do this sort of diet, like a low carb, keto, even carnivore diet. So she's actually talked to people before that do this for health reasons. And also she's seen people on the internet doing it as well, like on short videos or whatever. So she already knew about this. It wasn't that foreign. So that's the point where I started looking into myself, finding other people who did this, just listening to people's stories, learning about it. I was just happy I finally found relief. So I probably didn't need the same sort of justification, I guess, because I knew what I was feeling. But I still had these mainstream health ideas of like cholesterol being bad, and like you need fiber, and your brain can't function if you don't eat carbs and all that. So I was still like, can I even keep doing this? Is this safe? So it was great to like find people like Anthony Chafee, Ken Berry, those sort of people, to start learning more about why this works, how it works, and all that. And then for the rest of my family, I think for the most part, right, they were just happy. They could see the drastic difference in me. They didn't really have much to contest when it came to this. And my dad has already done like keto diets before, kind of falling on and off and whatever. But he's actually doing carnivore now himself, and he's a type 2 diabetic. He's just a few weeks into it. He's already lowered his insulin dosage to less than half than what he used to. His arthritis is psoriasis. His psoriasis is completely gone. He's like, you can tell he's like looking a lot better, right? Lost a lot of fat and probably water weight, inflammation, all that. What I think on the 3 week mark, he called me and told me, asked me, Jonathan, what's happening to me? Because he just woke up and felt this same thing that I felt, just so amazing. And he's like, now I get what you've been talking about. And keep in mind, I haven't been pushing this on anyone. I've just been leading by example, like just being me, just thriving on my own. And then I've been thinking, if they ever feel the need to, or they're ready for a different side to all this health stuff, they'll have to come to me, and then I'm happy to help them. But there's no point in me like trying to cram it down their throats. That's never gonna work. You're just gonna seem even more crazy. But in general, with my family, they pretty much all accepted it, but they were kind of skeptical with some things like nutritional deficiencies or sort of stuff like that. So and I wasn't really concerned about it at that point. But at some point, after they had bugged me about it enough, I decided, what, I'm going to go to my doctor or the family doctor or whatever, and I'm going to get a blood test done just so you can stop annoying me. So I did, and I went in to the doctor's office. I just started telling her about, so I'm eating this way. I didn't say I'm on a carnivore diet. I just said, or I told her I experimented with my diet and just stopped eating the things I found were irritating my gut. And now I'm eating meat, eggs, butter, and fish. And I don't know why, but my depression, my IBS, my anxiety, all of this stuff, it's just completely gone. And all that stuff. And she, was kind of really, or not just kind of, she was really skeptical and thinking we had to start a plan on like, how to reintroduce things and all that. And I just told her, you know what, I don't feel like bored eating this way. I look at food in a completely different way now. It's not for entertainment or anything like that. It's just for nourishing my own body. I eat my meal and then I move on with my day. It's not a big deal, right? And yeah, we took the blood test, and then I came back. And what's pretty funny is when we looked at my the blood panel, she just said to me, you know what, Jonathan, this is actually the most perfect blood panel I've ever seen in my entire career. That's pretty comical. But the sad part is she wasn't even curious about this way of eating or lifestyle, if there could be anything about it. She was almost just, you could tell it was really robotic, just following the same procedure as with every single patient, right? She started getting kind of almost aggressive or defensive in an like offensive way, if that makes sense. And wanted to start pushing medications on me and all that stuff. And I just told her, I'm not here to get any prescriptions from you. I'm just here to calm my family down with this blood panel you just told me is perfect. And lastly, I just asked her a simple question. I asked her, do you think the advice you give people and the medications you prescribe people, do you think you've ever actually cured anyone from their issues with doing that? And she did not reply. What she did was she threw me out. And I haven't heard from her since. So, yeah, that's that story.
And actually, when you think about it, doctors' training is funded by pharmaceutical companies, so they've got tunnel vision with what with the symptoms that they see and the drugs that go with those symptoms. They're not taught about nutrition and diet and extraneous factors. It's literally, there's a symptom, this pill goes with that symptom. So ultimately, it's not the doctor's fault, but it's nice that there are some, like Anthony Chaffee, who's remained open-minded and looked further into it, and now recommends it because he's seen the health benefits. So
Yeah,
thank you for
absolutely.
that. Thank you. So what would you, let me rephrase that. Why do you feel this way of eating is particularly important for young people who might be silently struggling like you were once?
Well, yeah, when you look at just young people in general, what I see when I go out in the real world and just the statistics as well, right? Burnout, anxiety, depression, just people struggling with obesity, all sorts of health issues. It's skyrocketing when it comes to young people. And they're just being told this exact same thing, right? That you just need to take this prescription for your issues, but it's really just masking symptoms, right? It's not actually going to the root cause of their issues and healing them from it. And especially what's so sad nowadays that I'm seeing is there are a lot of young people that are starting to get health conscious. You know, at some point, people are going to wake up and realize the advice we've been following, it's not working, because it's obviously not working. We've been following it for decades and people are just getting sicker and sicker. But the sad thing I'm seeing at the moment among young people is the trend seems to be they're getting into like training really hard and taking their protein shakes, their pre-workouts, all that sort of stuff, a bunch of supplements and all that. And it's not going to just eating real food, getting real nutrition, the nutrients your body needs to thrive. And I think it's really going to cause them issues in the long term, right? They're going to be inflamed. They're going to probably develop a bunch of health issues. And these are people who are even conscious about these things. They're trying to do the best thing for themselves, but they're just being misguided. They're being misled by someone who probably has a product to sell or something like that. That's a common thing you see, right? Oh, you need this protein powder. Oh, here's my discount code, right? So that's the sad thing I'm seeing. And then they get burnout, you know, and then fall off all of it, and everything just goes bad again. But
I don't know about you, but I get asked quite a lot about the cost of eating meat, eggs, dairy. And for me, I say, well, once you become fat adapted, away from being glucose adapted, you are more satiated. You don't have the hunger because you don't have the glucose spikes and crashes that you used to have. So actually, I mean, I don't know about, well, I know you're in the middle of a big fast now, but actually we tend to eat either one meal a day or one meal and a snack. So we eat a lot less.
yeah, we do. That's the first thing. I typically eat just one meal a day. It's pretty big, but still, like, okay, you can think of meat and that stuff being expensive, but you also have to think about the nutrition you're getting with it. think about what's your own health worth to you, right? Also, what are all the things you're not buying anymore? You're not buying the sodas, the Diet Coke, whatever. You're not buying supplements. You're not buying like snacks all the time, right? Like you said, none of that stuff. So you're actually saving a bunch of money. I've never spent less money on food. I think it's just people, and also then the point of I haven't been sick. Like you don't need, you're not paying a bunch to go to the doctor or like all that stuff. So there's many things that go into it, but in general, what I hear from pretty much everyone is the cost of food actually goes drastically down because first of all, you're not eating 6 meals a day plus snacks and all that, but also all the things you're not buying anymore. And then when you look at it, it's not actually that different. If you look at price per kilogram, that's a different story, actually. And then you get a lot of more nutrition. It's more nutritionally dense, right? That's where we have to focus. But also, yeah, with the young people, right, connecting into this, because that the price thing, of course, with people being students and all that. But a lot of students also spend money on takeaway and all that stuff, going to McDonald's or whatever. That adds up over time. It really, really does. But another thing is, to actually kind of even be in a state of mind where you can start to understand or like accept a different way of eating like this, you already have to be in a mindset where you're willing to question pretty much everything you've been told, right? You can't be going around assuming that the narrative you've been fed so far, that it's there for your own good, right? There's money in all this stuff, right? From many different angles. And when you just go look into these different things like the cholesterol thing, like the sugar industry, all that, and fiber, you just realize there's actually no truth to these things. It's
I
just a
know.
bunch of flawed studies.
Isn't it just? And can I pick up on that fiber as well? Because, I mean, I was one of these people that thought vegetables, fruit, salad, plant foods were highly dense in nutrition. And yes, they are. But we're not ruminants. We don't have 3 stomachs. So we can't break down all that fiber. So the available nutrition from plant foods is only about 5%, whereas from animal foods is 100%. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, and then they also come with like anti-nutrients, right? That block the absorption of nutrients in the first place. So it's even worse, right? But when it comes to fiber specifically, first of all, there's like a pretty good study to look at in Paul Mason has there's a good video on YouTube of him going through that. This study going with patients with idiopathic constipation in I think it's gastroenterology. I think that's the paper it's in. And basically what you see is a dose respondent like reaction to lowering fiber and their constipation going away. They had like different levels of fiber. Some people increased, some people stayed at the same, some people went lower. And you see like invariably those who went lower, their constipation symptoms just went away. So first of all, you have that. But also it's just not an essential thing you need, right? We already know carbohydrates aren't essential. When we say essential, we're referring to you don't need to eat it because your body already makes it, or you just don't need it for any physiological mechanism. And fiber is a carbohydrate. But yeah, like you said, we don't have like a large cecum or a fermentation chamber like gorillas, for example, to ferment this stuff. And where they get their nutrition from, it's not actually directly the fiber or plant material itself, it's from the bacteria. And what they get is fats and protein. right? So even they don't live off of carbohydrates; they live off of fat and protein like we're supposed to. Uh, and then what's funny as well, I found it really funny, which is we have the capacity of fermenting a little bit of fiber, right? We know that. But what you get from it and the health benefit that's always touted about it is like the gut benefits. And what that comes from is the fermentation gives you butyrate, which is a saturated fatty acid. And that's pretty comical considering the same people are saying saturated fat is dangerous. But again, with butyrate, you can get that from butter. You even get it just from being in a ketogenic state already. Beta hydroxybutyrate is one of the main ketone bodies. So you already get it anyway. You don't need fiber for that stuff. And I believe, like in human history, we did chew on like fibrous roots or tubers at some point. But I think it's more as a subsistence method, right? In times of starvation, we just do it to survive. It's more of a strategy than a need, I believe. And it just seems pretty obvious to me that it is causing people a lot of issues, and it seems like it's like actually scraping people's gut lining and all that stuff. And you just see all the stories, right? Their gut issues go away when they cut it out. Yeah, that's another thing I used to have. I used to struggle with hemorrhoids, right? Being like an old lady in my teens, right? That's, but yeah, you just don't need it. And it seems like it actually has more negative side effects than benefits, really. And those touted benefits you can get elsewhere.
Yeah, thank you for shedding light on that. And if you could share one tip for somebody who's struggling with their health, any of the things that you've had, what would that be?
I would say, like I said earlier, just actually be open-minded. First of all, be willing to question everything you've been told, right? Don't stop seeing yourself as a victim. That's not helping you. That's keeping you stuck, right? And be willing to listen to an opposing side of an argument before you actually make up your mind, right? First of all, we have to have the mindset correct for it, right? And then I would say just stop eating all the processed stuff, right? The sodas, the fries, whatever, takeout, all that stuff. I mean, most of the stuff in a grocery store or supermarket nowadays, it's processed garbage. But just eat single ingredient foods. That's the most important thing, right? Just go through real foods. And then I would say focus on animal foods mostly. I mean, I would say going to only that is, in my view, is the best option. But not everyone has to go there. Not everyone wants to go there. And just in general, stick to real foods. Focus on animal nutrition. That's where you get the most nutrient-dense, bioavailable nutrition, right? And just commit to a period of doing it, right? 30 days, 90 days. I always recommend going 90 days because that's when that way you're actually giving your body the time to adapt to this way of eating and getting used to using other things or fats for fuel and all that stuff. So you actually start seeing real healing and feeling the benefits. You've switched onto that mode, right? That other metabolism, and just see for yourself, right? But you have to commit to this period. You can't just go in thinking, oh, I'll see what happens. Maybe I'll fall off or I don't know, something like that. Just go in, be dedicated to, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it 100%, right? Don't guess. Have a plan, right? All that stuff. That's what I would say.
Brilliant. Thank you. And where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on pretty much all the big social media platforms. I go by Norse Carnivore, Norse. I'm from Norway, right? So my idea was my personal ancestry, right, with the Vikings and all that. I thought that would be a little fun thing. And yeah, if anyone has questions or they just need some help, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk and assist anyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your healing with my audience on Heal Yourself, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me on, Sarah. I'm really grateful for this.
Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with anyone who you think will benefit. And can you leave me a review wherever you've listened to it to help me reach more people? Thank you.